Do you know how many files your employees have uploaded, downloaded, emailed, airdropped, Slacked, or shared via Google Drive today? A lot of that data has left your organization, and you don't even know it. Visit code42.com to learn how Insider prevents data exfiltration.
Welcome to the Oh Hell No podcast, where I, Keisha Nicole, delivers a daily dose of passion, purpose, and struggle by interviewing people who are living their best life doing what they love. Here on this podcast, every Oh Hell No moment serves a purpose. Now let's get started with the show. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Oh Hell No podcast. Today I have Cindy Gelormini, and she is an entrepreneur, an author, and an autism advocate. And she's also known as the Paint Diva. So welcome, Cindy.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy to have you here tonight. So the Paint Diva, Miss Cindy, she does decorating, staging, and color consultations. So that's exciting. What do you love about painting?
I don't paint anymore. I did in the 90s. I used to paint murals and I used to do faux finishes. And I never liked doing faux finishes. It was just in style at the time. And interior designers would ask me to do it and people would hire me to do it. And I did it because it paid the bills, but I didn't really like it. I like painting murals. That was fun. But I found that people with new construction with like 24-foot ceilings would want these faux finishes, and I didn't like heights. And after doing it for like 10 years, I almost fell off an extension ladder one day when I was like 20 feet in the air. I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm over it.
Wow.
So I was working with somebody at the time and I just kind of handed it over to her, and her name was Cindy too. And I'm like, Cindy, it's all yours, you know, and she had a freak out moment, but I said, you'll do fine. I taught you well. Just, you know, take over. And the faux finishes were starting to go out of style. So I knew it was time to reinvent myself and do something different. And I walked into the paint store one day because I was painting my deck, and I had done murals in all of the owner's kids' bedrooms. So he knew me. And as soon as I walked in, he said, oh my God, I can't believe you just walked in here. I need someone to come here and work in the store. I need an interior designer to help the women pick colors all day, because none of the guys want to deal with that. They just want to mix paint. They didn't want women asking them, well, what do you think of this color? They're like, lady, I don't know. You know? So I just was in the right place at the right time. And I said, this is awesome. I don't have to carry ladders. I don't have to carry paint cans with me. I'm like, oh, I don't have to do any actual painting. You mean all I have to do is help people pick a color? This is great.
Wow.
So I started, and there kind of was no such thing. It was one of his competitors had hired an interior designer to work in the store. So that's why he was doing it, to keep up with his competitor. And I just sort of built that whole department. And after a couple months, people started catching on that I was there. You know, they were surprised at first. They come in, they're like, wait, you can actually help me pick a color? I said, yeah, that's what I'm here for. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. So people started catching on, and they started coming in and asking for my help. And I started hearing stories of this lady that owned a paint store in another nearby town. And she was so nasty to everybody. They called her the paint Nazi. So, and they would tell me how, like, she would just say for them, leave. You don't know what you want. Don't come back until you know what you want. and she had, and she had dogs. And like this one woman went in, like she liked dogs, but she didn't like people, you know? So one time this lady she went into the store with her toddler in the stroller, and the baby was eating a bagel, and the dogs went over and snatched the bagel right out of the baby's hand, and the baby started crying. And the woman comes over to her and she says, I don't feed your kid. Don't feed my dogs. And so these people were just telling me all these stories, and they said, we're afraid of her. We don't want to go to her. And so after a couple of months, one day, a woman walked in and she looked at me and she says, oh, so you're the paint diva. And I said, oh, are you confusing me with somebody else? She goes, no, that's a paint Nazi. She's nasty. You're the nice one. I was like, oh, okay. As long as we have that straight. And then I said, actually, that's kind of cute. I actually like that, the paint diva. I think I'm going to use that. So as I started developing my business, I used that, and that became my website, and I used it for my business because I have this long Italian last name. Nobody can pronounce it. Nobody can remember it, but they remember the paint diva. So it just turned out to be good marketing. And I worked there for like 11 years. And then it was sort of this corporate buyout, bought out the store that I was in. And they brought in somebody to replace me. And I went out on my own 4 years ago. And at that point, I already had a whole following, all these people, they're looking for me. They won't choose a paint color without me. And they remember the paint diva. So it turned out to be good. They find me.
Nice. So that was all divine intervention, that whole thing,
Yes.
like walking into the store, everything. So
Yeah.
when you were painting, what did you love about painting? Was it like the colors coming together? Did it put you in a relaxed state? Like, what do you enjoy?
I think I just really like before and afters. I like changing a space. When I was doing the murals, it's just kind of fun to take a picture of a blank white wall. And then when it's done, you have this whole creation on the wall. And then you take the after picture, and it was like, ooh, wow, and I still do that. When I go into people's homes now, they hire me to go in and choose their paint colors for them. And they love the before and afters. So, and it's just, I think that's what I like. I like the transformation, looking at the before and after, but I also like what I do now more than when I was painting. Okay. because I'm helping people. I'm taking their stress away. I make them smile. I make them happy.
Got it.
So like people, they'll buy a new house and they want to paint the whole place before they move in. And it's hard enough to choose colors for one room, let alone the whole house.
Yep.
And I come in and I just break it right down for them. And it's like bing, bang, boom. And we've got all the colors picked in a whole hour. And when they're done, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how easy you made this. And they're like, that's the best money I ever spent.
Yeah.
And they're happy. Like that's what I like. I like helping people, and I like making people happy.
So when you were growing up, what did you think you were going to do? Like,
Well, my mom was a ballet teacher. My grandfather was a minister. So I grew up dancing ballet. So I thought maybe I'd be a ballerina, or I always sang in the church choir. I really wanted to be a singer, a famous singer, but I also was really good at art. So it was a toss up between all of those. I want to be an artist. I want to be a singer. I want to be a dancer.
So it was always in the arts.
Always, yes. Always creative stuff. And I wasn't that great at school. I was average, and I struggled. I was not a good reader. And I have trouble, still to this day, I have trouble memorizing names because I'm very visual. I've learned as an adult how to deal with all this, but I need to see your name written down for me to remember it. So I had trouble memorizing. I wasn't a good test taker. I wasn't good at social studies and science and math,
Right.
So I was kind of insecure about that, but yet I had all these talents and creative stuff. But in school, they make you feel like that's not important. You have to be a good test taker. You got to do good SATs. You got to get in college and, and do all that stuff. So it wasn't good for my self-esteem when I was a kid. But, as an adult, I see, everybody appreciates it. But trying to make money off of these talents and trying to make a career out of it, that's the hard thing.
Well, I think it's hard when you're young because of the way society makes work seem. Like if you're not an attorney, a doctor, or, something like that, then you're not doing anything, right? But there are so many other careers that you can have based on your skill sets and your passion. And that's why I love doing this podcast and talking to people who are making a living, doing things that they're really good at, that they probably never thought that they could make money at it because someone told them to, oh God, you're never going to make money doing that. You need to go to college,
Yeah, for sure. For
So
sure. My sister-in-law, we've been friends since we were 17, and we used to sit and draw and sketch together. And she ended up going to school to become a nurse because that was the sensible thing to do, to have a career being a nurse. And she did it for many years and was never really that happy with it. And she finally, you can call it that midlife crisis. I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's when you finally realize I'm tired of doing what everybody else tells me to do, and I want to do what I want to do. And she stopped being a nurse, and she opened up a store where she takes old furniture and paints it and resells it. So she can, which is creative.
see, she finally found her passion, or decided to pursue her passion, which is creative,
Yeah.
So what do you think makes you really good at your job besides the artistic, skill set that you have where you know how to match colors and do all creative things? What else do you think makes you good at what you do?
I think that it takes a lot of psychology kind of to do what I do. And I had to learn how to be really patient with people and to be a really good listener. When I was painting murals, I used to be by myself all day, and I am really an introvert. A lot of artists are introverts, and I like to be alone, and I like to just do my projects. I like being home a lot, and when I painted murals, I was in the house alone. And when I went to work in the store, it was a big transition for me because I had to talk to people all day. And it would get overwhelming to me sometimes. And I would make excuses and say, I'm sorry, I have to go in the back and fax something, just so I could go wait till they left. But I did it for enough years. Like I felt like God put me there for a reason, to teach me how to talk to people and deal with people and listen to people. And so what I would do is I would ask a lot of questions. So say somebody would come in and say, I'm painting my living room, right? I would ask them, all right, tell me what it looks like. What color is your couch? Okay. Do you have hardwood floors, or do you have an area rug? Okay. What, I would ask them all these questions, and then I'd get this mental picture of what the room looked like. And then I would pull out stuff. And when I go to people's homes, the first thing I do is I ask them, I say, okay, show me around, but I listen to them. And like the first thing I do, like I went to a house today and her walls were all gold, and she had a red couch and a gold couch and a red chair, and whatever. And as she shows me around, I listen to her, and I find out, like, does she like cool colors or warm colors? Like, what colors does she like? What colors does she not like? Why doesn't she like it? Why, it's really it's a lot of trying to read people. And then I do a lot of like she told me, I started pulling out grays because that's what's in. And she says, oh, my husband really doesn't like gray. I'm like, okay, and so like, I don't push stuff on people. Like interior designers, they usually have their signature look, and they assume you're hiring them to create their signature look in your house. Right. But I don't do that. And the reason I think I make people happy is because I really listen to them, and I try to figure out who they are, what they like, what they don't like. And then I come up with colors that make them happy.
Okay. So I was going to ask you to tell us about a job that you had that you didn't love, but you use a skill you learned from there in your career today. But you answered that in that question that you were answering just a minute ago when you said that you had to like talk to people and you didn't really like doing that. So you used to kind of hide, but
I've learned how to, I do like people, it's not that, it's just being around a lot of people all the time kind of sucks all my energy away. Yeah. So I've learned how to kind of set limits. Like I don't take appointments before like 10:30, 11 in the morning, because I need the morning time to be by myself. Like I can't, jump out of bed and head straight out the door and go deal with people. Like I need to have my downtime for a while, Yep.
And I love that, because that comes from being self-aware.
Yeah.
And I did I did a seminar on self-awareness like last year. So I feel like that's the foundation to put, getting to that happily ever after is like, you have to know what makes you tick, what works for you, what doesn't, so that you can set yourself up for success. So
yeah, and I think it helps to kind of know what your personality type is. Also, it took me many years. Now they do tests and people talk about this stuff all the time.
Right.
But I didn't realize that I was an introvert because I want to be a singer and a dancer and all these things that are usually up on a stage and in front of people, right? But then when I got up there, I would clam up and I'd be terrified, and extroverts, they love being around people. They love the energy of being around people, and it fires them up for the day. And they love the attention and being the center of attention. And I don't. So I have to just really push through it. And I do sing, and I've sung in bands. I've led worship in church and stuff, but it took me many years to get past that fear of being in front of people.
That's so interesting. I'm probably someplace in the middle of introvert, extrovert.
I'm what they call an extroverted introvert. Yeah. You do these extroverted activities, but truly on the inside, you're an introvert. It's like in the tests, they'll ask you when you're around a lot of people, do you feel energized or do you feel completely drained and can't wait to go home and get a rest? I'm like, yes, that would be me.
For me, it depends on, the room, So,
yeah.
So stepping out on your own 4 years ago, what did you struggle with the most as a new entrepreneur?
Well, I had to, when I was in the store, I never had to do really any kind of advertising. I didn't have to do anything to promote my business. If people wanted to find me, they knew where I was, and they'd just come find me. And the work would just basically walk in the door. So now I'm on my own. So now I had to figure out how to get clients and customers. So I started posting on social media, on Facebook town pages. So now I just had to kind of step up my game on Facebook, where before I was, I couldn't really be bothered. Like I'd post once in a while, but didn't really care that much. And same thing with Instagram. Like I used Instagram just for personal pictures.
Right.
So I switched over my Instagram account to a Paint Diva page, and I kind of took a lot of my personal stuff off and just started only posting work photos and, a lot of before and afters. And I would post on the town pages also. And, even though like I've done this long enough where I get so many referrals, but I still post here and there just to remind people, hey, I'm still here. I'm not out of business.
Right.
Because once in a while people say, are you still doing it? Yes. So and plus new people move into town all the time too. So they need to know that I exist.
Absolutely. Yeah, that seems to be like the biggest struggle with people and businesses is the marketing and advertising.
Yeah. And my business is very visual. My sister's a photographer, and I kind of learned from her. Like she just started taking photos, and she just started posting on the town pages, and she would start getting work here and there. Well, as like the year progressed, her work started getting better and better. And then she started getting really creative with her photos, and she started posting them on Instagram, and models were starting to see her work, and they started calling her and saying, hey, can you take my picture? Wow. And so now she's at the point where she, books stuff all over the place and takes pictures of models, and it gets posted in magazines and stuff. And it was all through Instagram.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. So what is your favorite place or room to stage?
For staging, well,
or even just decorating.
See, like staging is you're trying to sell a house, right? And so I give these people like a whole speech, and I let them know that my favorite customers are people that have lived in their house for 25, 30 years. Okay. And their kids have graduated, they're moving on, and now they're going to downsize. So I explained to them, I say, look, when you bought a house, we used to look in the newspaper, and you'd look to see if there was an open house, and then you'd drive around and go to open houses. And that's the first time you would see a house. Doesn't work that way anymore. Now people look on Zillow and realtor.com, they look online. And the very first thing they see is photos of your house. So those photos have to look great. And if they see outdated stuff or crappy photos, they're going to swipe right past your house, and they're not even going to, they don't even want to go in. So we have to create, and I guess that's why I'm good at it, because I'm creating a photograph in my mind, when I look at their house.
Yeah.
So, and I just try to get it cleaned up. And, I kind of walk room to room with them, and I'll just tell them, there's too many pieces of furniture in this, let's get rid of this piece and that piece. But I'm very nice when I talk to people. Like, I tell them everything that I love about their house. Okay. So, because it's, again, you can't offend people, because people love their home and they love their things. And a lot of times it's hard for them to sell their house and move on, because there's all these memories there and yada, yada. Right. Oh. So if I look at the living room, I'll just tell them, you have great hardwood floors, and you have a fireplace, and that's awesome. So we want to make sure that when people see a photo of your house, they notice the hardwood floors and the fireplace, not that big red oriental rug in the middle of the room.
Right.
And I'll take a picture of the room and show it to them and say, what's the first thing you see? And they said, the oriental rug. I said, exactly. That's why we have to roll it up and take it out. But again, like, it's that transformation. When it's done, the house looks so good, but we paint the walls, and we, move out some furniture, and maybe bring in a new rug and some new artwork and stuff. And then they're like, oh my gosh, well, it looks so good now. And now I don't want to sell it.
Now that's the other problem.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's just that before and after. I don't know. There's just something about that. It's kind of like, it's like decluttering and stuff too. It's like, there's just sort of this satisfaction of getting everything like all cleaned up and looking new.
Yep. That makes it like appealing again. Like,
and I like to, and I'm doing it to other people's houses. See, before I used to work for other people, I used to always be doing it in my own house. And my husband, every time he came home, something would be different. Like, what did you do now? What did you paint now? Now I just do it for everybody else.
But that's so much fun. Like, I think that's so great when you can do that,
It's fun.
Yeah.
So what I do is really fun. So I'll tell you, I was working with so many, buyers and sellers. I got my real estate license a few years ago, and I dabbled in real estate for a while. But I realized I really just don't like it at all. I don't like confrontation. I don't like all the amount of, the paperwork, and it's a lot of wasted time. You could work with somebody for 3 to 6 months, driving them around, looking at houses. The last straw for me was a young couple that it was 2 weeks before the closing, and they didn't even call me. They just emailed me and said, we changed our mind. We decided we don't want to buy a house anymore.
Oh my God.
And we were 2 weeks away from being done, and to me, the business is not, it's run stupidly. You don't get paid for any of that time, and if you're working for a seller, you have to pay, the realtor pays for the photography, the video. Sometimes they pay for the staging, they pay for the signs, they pay for the, all the advertising, everything. It's all money out of your pocket. And then the seller can turn around and say, yeah, we changed our mind. We don't want to sell the house anymore. You don't get reimbursed any of that.
No, that's crazy.
You get nothing. You don't get reimbursed for your time, your money, nothing.
Oh my God.
It's very stupidly done. I feel like the industry should change. Like, there should be a contract that says, if you decide to back out, you have to reimburse me for, the money I put out and for the time that you've wasted.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. See, I never knew that.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know. They think that you're on a salary plus commission. I'm like, no, there's no salary. It's commission only. And if the house doesn't sell, you make nothing, after all that time that you put in. It's kind of crazy. So anyway, and I found that every time I was working, I had a real estate client, I was starting to get really grouchy and really in a bad mood. And it was because I had too much going on. And between trying to do my paint diva and the staging and the real estate end of it, I said, something's got to go. And last January, I just evaluated, and I'm like, I got to cut off some fat here. And I put my license into referral, which means I keep my license, but I'm not an active realtor anymore. if somebody tells me they want to sell their house, I just refer them to somebody else and I just get a referral fee for not having to do anything. So it's actually smarter.
Exactly. That works. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So during the pandemic, I realized that appliances were like sold out. I had to buy a dishwasher and it was insane. Like what I went. So did you feel like you were really busy during this time, or did you also suffer,
I have been busier this year than I've ever been. And I think it's because people are spending so much time at home.
Yeah.
Where they never used to be at home. And now they're all working from home and stuff, where, of course, real estate got really hot. I gave up my license, and then all of a sudden everybody wanted to move out of the city and move into the suburbs of New Jersey, where I'm from.
Right.
And so everybody's putting their house on the market and buying houses. So I started working for a lot of buyers and sellers. People are renovating, and a lot of people just want to paint because they're sick of looking at their walls. They're like, oh my gosh. Now that they're home, they realize I haven't painted this place in like the past 12 years. And this all has to go, and they just want to redo everything.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I've been really busy. And then on top of that, I wrote my children's book series in November of 2019. And I went on, before the pandemic hit, I went on a couple trips. I went out to California, I went to Florida, I went to Israel, and I brought my sketch pad with me everywhere I went because I had these long flights and I could sketch on these flights. And I got back from Israel around March 17th, and the pandemic hit while I was there. So when I came back, I had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then they locked everything down, for like April and May. So I spent the entire like 2.5 months painting all 340 illustrations for my books.
Wow.
So it was a huge project, but that kept me, and I had one staging job. It was a new construction house. So nobody was in it. There was nobody there. So I was able to go in and stage it and stuff, and didn't have to worry about COVID or anything because there was nobody there. And the money that I made from that staging job carried me through the 2 months that I wasn't going to people's homes. But I did virtual consults. I just FaceTime people, and I was doing virtual consults that way. And like a couple times I'd take it's called a fan deck. Some people don't know what that is. A fan deck is it's all the paint colors it's like the little book of all the paint colors. And I would drop it off at somebody's house, and then I'd go home, and then we'd FaceTime. That was in the very beginning. And then as time went on, people started to realize, okay, you can wear a mask and socially distance and all that.
Right.
So I've been, between the books and and work, I've been really busy this whole year. Yeah. I feel terrible for people that, everything that everybody's been through. I feel guilty, kind of guilty, but it was actually a really good year for me.
Yeah, it's been up and down for different people. So you segued me right into my next question, which was going to be about your children's book. So tell us about the book series, what it's about, and then tell us a little bit about illustrating a book. Like, what does that entail?
Okay, so my son, Robbie, he had severe autism. I did a video blog of him called Robbie and Me Autism Reality. It's on YouTube, and I followed him around for 4 years. And the purpose of that was because he had turned 21. Kids with special needs go to school till they're 21. It's beyond 18. But then after that, there was nothing available for him. When you're severe and you can't talk and you have behaviors and seizures and all that kind of stuff, it's very difficult, for them to find day programs and things like that. There's really nothing available. And he had gone into a group home, and they didn't know how to handle him. And they would call the police on him and all this crazy stuff. So I said, I'm going to just turn my camera on my phone and just start filming this stuff. And we ended up getting all these followers all over the world. Other families that had autistic kids, and people that got jobs working as aides with people with autism, and they would find us to try to learn about autism and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, I had no idea that in 2017, he had a seizure and he passed away in his sleep. And that was the end of my video series. I had no idea it would end that way. Mm. So a couple of years, 2 years went by, and I was talking to a woman that does PR because I was working on a book on how to choose paint colors. And I was talking to this woman trying to, plan publicity for that book. And she Googled me and she says, "What is this Robbie and me autism? What is that all about?" And so I told her, it's about my son and everything. And I said, I built up all this momentum with followers and everything, but I don't know what to do now, And she says, "Well, why don't you write a book?" I said, "Well, I did have this idea of writing a children's book about a little penguin with autism." And she's like, "Oh my God, that's huge. That's amazing." She's like, she was such a New Yorker, She's like, "Oh my God, that's huge. You have to do that. You have to do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I didn't realize a children's book would be such a big deal, So I post on Facebook. I had a Robbie and Me page and my personal page, right? And I said, I think I might write a children's book about a little penguin with autism. And it blew up. Everybody went nuts. They're like, "Oh my God, that's the best thing I ever heard. You should totally do that." I was like, "Well, okay, then." I guess I'll do that. So I sat down and I wrote the first book in 15 minutes, and then I was like, well, that's the first one is really, it's about when he's 2 years old and his daycare teacher notices that he doesn't talk and he likes to spin and rock and he doesn't sit for circle time. And then the mom takes him to the doctor and the doctor says he has autism. And then she has to tell, the papa. And then that's the end. That was 25 pages. I was like, well, that's just the beginning of the story. I got to keep going. So I sat down and wrote 11 more stories. And I just told all these cute, funny little stories about him when he was a little boy. My videos were about him older, he was 21, but these stories are about when he's little, when he was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old.
Wow.
And it was really cute and it rhymed. The whole thing rhymed. And that was so, and then I started the illustration. So this is when all of a sudden it was this light bulb moment in my life. It's not an oh hell no moment. It was more like an aha moment. Mm-hmm. Because of the music, and there was a time in my life where I wrote songs a lot, and I would just think in rhyme, So when I sat down and wrote the books, it was like writing 12 songs. And I used to sit down and I used to write a song or two every day, So it was like writing 12 songs. And then I knew that I could do the illustrations because I was painting murals all those years. So this was just sketching out, and to do cartoons is so much easier than trying to paint something to look real, and the stories just came because I had been doing the video blog. So they were kind of already, I kind of was telling some of the stories that I had told in my blog. So it was all of a sudden, this light bulb moment was oh my God, this is what I was created to do. It was all the talents that I had that I didn't know what I was supposed to do with, all came together in this one project.
Wow.
It was, and I was it uses the music, it uses the art, and it's telling the stories, and it's getting the message out that I was trying to get out with the video blog. It'll all come together in this one project. So that was huge. It was all of a sudden I found my calling in life.
That's so amazing. I love that.
I did all these illustrations. I put all these, it's 12 books. And then I met with an author to talk to her, a children's book author. And she said what I had found when I was doing some research, that if you go through a traditional publisher, they keep 90% of the profits and they really don't do anything to help you market the book. You have to do your own marketing.
Wow.
So I said to her, then what's the point? Then what do I need a publisher for if they don't even help you get the books out? Mm-hmm. She just looked at me. She was like, yeah, kind of, pretty much. And I said, well, then I'm going to self-publish. This is stupid. So then I looked into how much it costs to self-publish. And I know you talked about this in one of your other podcasts, but so the cost is basically $2,000 per book. And that was me You can do it for less if you go straight to the people that actually print the books. Okay. But I went to a publisher because I wanted them to do the book layout. I wanted to make sure it was laid out correctly so that when they printed that I wouldn't have issues of the text goes into the binding or it runs off the page or anything like that, So that's kind of what the money goes to, is for people to do the layout of the book.
So do you have to order like a bunch of books at one time, or is it like one time?
No. So what you can do is you can just do print on demand. So like you can print a book directly through Amazon. And you don't really, you give them, I don't know, a few $100s or whatever to set everything up. It's not a lot of money, or maybe it's very little money to set everything up. And then you don't have to buy any books. People will just go on Amazon, order your book, and then they'll print it and send it to them, and then send you a check for your royalties. You'll make 50 cents or $1 or whatever per book. So again, it's your job to get word out there to let everybody know about your book. Okay. So the cheapest way and very easy way is to do it through Amazon. What I heard was, though, is because I looked at all the different, I had Googled it and I looked at all the different self-publishing companies, and I wrote down all the pros and cons of all the different companies. And I forget what the reason why I didn't choose Amazon, but I think it had to do with, the printing for children's books or the amount of pages or something like that. It didn't work for me. So I chose Zulon Publishing. It's a Christian publishing company, and I used them. Now, I knew it was going to cost me about $2,000 per book, and I had 3 books because I divided the 12 chapters into 3 books, so there's 4 chapters in each book. Okay, because I didn't want to do 12 separate books and pay $2,000 per book. That would be $24,000. I'm like, I don't have that kind of money. And one book of all 12 chapters I felt was just too big and too thick, and no kid is going to want to read a book that big. Right. So that was the best solution I could come up with, is doing 3 books. So I knew it would cost me about $6,000 for that, but I also wanted, and I didn't even have the 6,000. So I did a Kickstarter campaign. Okay. And I had to sit down and figure out how much money I would need for a Kickstarter. Now, when you do a Kickstarter campaign, you have to give them something. So what I gave them was books. So for a $50 donation, they would get book 1. For a $100 donation, they get book 1 and 2. For $150, they get book 1, 2, and 3. For $200, I'll sign the books for them, right? They get a signed copy. But for $200, I said I would do an illustration for them of their I penguinized their family. Like really cool. So I had them send me a picture of their family, and then I created, it looks like a page out of the book. Of their family as penguins.
Oh, that's really smart. That's cool.
Yeah. So I had to come up with something, So some people would give out T-shirts. Like if you look at other Kickstarter campaigns to see what other people do, they all come up with stuff. Like they'll give you a copy of a book and a T-shirt and whatever. Right. And then my biggest donor would be a $500. They get 3 copies of all 3 books. So they get 9 books plus an illustration. So those books I do have to order. Okay. So to give them as reward. So I had to figure that. So I had to kind of double my amount because I needed it for that. And then I also knew I needed money for some type of PR and advertising or whatever. So I threw in like an extra $5,000. So I had this really big amount, like $19,000. I put it down, I made my Kickstarter for, because I tried to figure out how many books I'd have to order as rewards and, and advertising and stuff. And I hit the goal in a month.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. In 1 month?
I was stunned. Yeah. So I did that I started at the end of July, and September 1st was the deadline. Yeah. And this amazing thing. So a friend of mine, she has a she has a foundation. Her daughter, her 12-year-old daughter, had committed suicide, and she started it's called Mallory's Army Foundation, and she has this anti-bullying, because her daughter was being bullied on social media and stuff. So so I know it's like, I can't even.
Yeah.
So she does this whole anti-bullying campaign. She goes into schools and speaks and does all this stuff. So she has thousands of followers. So when I posted on Facebook that I was doing this project, she says, "Oh my God, I want to help you. I'm all over this." So we did a video together, and she sat down and interviewed me. And it was when I was talking to her that I realized the scope of what can be done with these books, because at the end of every chapter, the mama always says to her son, "I love you just the way you are." And it's like the running theme in there. "I love you just the way you are." And then I do a mom's minute where it's 2 pages talking to the adults reading the book, explaining what autism is, what the behaviors are, and all that kind of stuff. And I had imagined teachers reading the story to kids in their class and teaching the kids how to recognize autism, how to understand it, so that if they get a kid that comes to their class that has autism, the kids, they won't make fun of them. They won't, think that, oh, they're weird and whatever. They'll associate him with Robbie the Penguin and say, "Oh, okay, I know what he's doing. That's just like Robbie the Penguin," and they'll want to be friends with him, and they'll be nice to him. Right. And it was when I was talking to her, I realized how this could really help sort of an anti-bullying, because when I was doing my video blog, kids used to write to me, and parents would write to me and tell me stories, that will just break your heart. So because I did that video with her, that helped me with the donations. Also, because of some of her followers, they jumped on and they donate. I had one really big donor that came through her. So she was a big help.
And I love that you share that information about Kickstarter and writing the book and stuff like that, because a lot of people don't really realize what the process is for those.
Yes.
Things. So
no, a lot of people don't. And I mean, when I looked at the amount that it was going to cost, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have that kind of money. Like this will never happen. It'll never get done. And because I'm, that introvert, I'm very independent and I'm used to doing things myself.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to have to come up with this money myself. I'm going to have to put it on a credit card or something. I'm going to have to work 3 jobs to pay it off, whatever. Mm-hmm. Never realizing that people want to help. And somebody even said that to me one day. They said, a lot of people are going to want to be behind this project. A lot of people are going to want to help you. And I just looked at her like, they will? Like, really? Why? And they did. They've all jumped on. And there's a lot of people that didn't donate to the Kickstarter that are just waiting for the books to come out so that they can order it. And I have people jumping in that want to help me. It's like, I already have somebody's having a big party on February 12th that she normally does, because she has a foundation as well. And she's like, "I want you to be my keynote speaker, and I want you to do a book signing and blah, 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 blah." And,
oh my God, that's so exciting.
She already set it up. I got a phone call this morning from somebody from the governor's office that the governor's wife wants to read my books publicly.
Wow.
Because they really want to do something for autism.
That's so great. I love that. See that? Out of sadness of losing your son, something amazing came out of it where he lives forever.
Exactly.
With beautiful memories that he created.
And I feel like he's really watching over me, and that he's like making this stuff happen. I just feel like he's so much a part of this.
Absolutely. That's great. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back to decorating.
Mm-hmm.
Before you share your oh hell no moments. And I want you to give us some oh hell no tips when decorating. So these are things that you should not be doing. And then I want you to give us 3 oh hell no's and then 3 oh hell yeses, like some tips, basic tips that we can, like, if we want to, like, okay, for example, in my kitchen, I need to make some changes. Like, okay, we bought this house new and it was like brand new, but everything in it was like basic. So we're like seeing things that we want to change and fix up and do different things. So like in the kitchen, tell us 3 oh hell no tips when remodeling or changing things up.
Well, there's a couple things that I have pet peeves about. Please, no shiny walls or ceilings. Hell no. With the shiny ceilings. A matte finish looks flat, but it's washable. That usually will work in every room. I've been in homes where previous owners have shiny walls because they want the walls to be, washable, but they use semi-gloss, and semi-gloss is really shiny, and that's only for your trim. That's only supposed to be on your windows and doors and trim, not on the walls. And it shows all the imperfections. So you could see every bump, every spackle job, whatever. It's that is a number one, no shiny walls. The next thing is people don't really understand about trim colors and your whites. Never mix your whites. So this is another thing that really irritates me. When somebody has off-white kitchen cabinets, they're like creamy, they're a little yellowy or a little bit beige, and then they go put pure white on the trim on the windows, and the trim right next to their off-white cabinets. The cabinets look dirty when you do that. So you should try to figure out a color that's the closest to your cabinet color and put that on your trim.
Nice.
And then the other thing is a lot of people, see, you bought a newly built house, but in an older home, and this is pretty much is every week for me. Everybody that buys a new house, the kitchen is 20 years old and it has like cherry wood cabinets and granite and tumbled marble. And they always hate the orangey red cabinets. They want to paint it white. And I always tell them, don't do anything until I come there and look, because if the granite is like really gold, orangey color, or a lot of brown and whatever, white cabinets don't look good with that. You can't do, white doesn't work with every countertop. If there's white in it, then it will work. But if there's no white in your countertop and you go paint these bright white cabinets with like beige backsplash and stuff, it's just not going to look right. So you got to think about that. You have to think about what's in the room. And then another mistake people make is they see a color in their friend's house and they want to paint it in their own house because it looked good in the friend's house. And I always say, yeah, but do you have the same furniture they have? Do you have the same lighting that they have? Like, just because it looks good in their house doesn't mean it's going to look good in your house. Exactly. I see that one a lot. Yep. Or they see it in a magazine or on Pinterest or whatever, and then like when I worked at the paint store, people did this all the time. They would come in and they say, can you show me like this color? Cause they saw it online somewhere, whatever. And I pull it out and they say, oh God, that looks nothing like it did on my computer.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, so give us 3 oh hell yeses. These are like rules that you can follow and you're safe.
I usually always do white ceilings and trim. You kind of can't go wrong with that unless like we talked about it, unless your stuff is off white. Everything in there is off white. Let me think. What would be a yes? Everybody likes everything light and bright. I can give you more oh hell no's than I can give you yes.
Or maybe in the bathroom.
If you have a red dining room, please, it's got to go. Please. If you have a red dining room, I guarantee you painted it 12 to 15 years ago and it's time to repaint. And a bathroom, for bathrooms, again, you don't need shiny walls. A yes would be the way to pick a color for your bathroom is to look at your tile. And to choose a color that looks good with your tile. Again, don't pick a color that looks good in your friend's house or in a magazine. You have to pick something that looks good with your tile.
And yes for a bedroom.
And a bedroom would be, I just love a fabric headboard. I just think they're great. I love them. Wood, like sleigh beds and stuff. It's outdated.
Yeah.
And so I either see like these big, heavy, clunky beds that people don't want anymore, or they have no headboard at all. And I just think a fabric covered headboard, it just makes the room. It just changes the whole look, and they're inexpensive. You can buy one for like $150 off of Wayfair, $100. It's not a lot. Oh, and that's another thing. Okay. So this is the advice I give to everybody. Keep the big stuff like your couch and your walls neutral, and then do pops of color in your accessories, meaning an area rug, pillows, the small stuff. Then you won't get sick of it. And then if you want a new look, you just go to Home Goods and you get a new rug, and I don't believe in spending a lot of money on rugs. I can't tell you how many times I go to people's houses and they have these big, dark, heavy Oriental rugs that they hate now, but they can't get themselves to get rid of it because they paid a couple $1,000s for it.
Yep.
And I just tell them, no, I said that roll it up and you're going to go to Home Goods and buy one for like $200, let the kids and the dog trash it. And then you won't mind throwing it out and getting a new one in a few years.
Yep. That's great advice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you are following your passion and doing purpose work?
Yes, I do. Especially now, as far as my work goes, I'm very happy with that because like I'm using my creativity and I'm making people happy all day. I mean, there's no greater feeling than that. There's no, it's not conflict. I walk away and people are just happy to see you and, happy you were there. And now with the Penguin books and what's already happening, they're not even out yet. They won't even be out till February 6th or 12th. And already it's just generating, like everybody's jumping on the bandwagon and everybody wants to do something and they want to help people with autism, which was that's like my big life goal, is to help families that have kids with autism. And I feel like I'll tell you what, this is what motivates me. Because I almost slipped. I always said I almost said that's what I want on my gravestone someday. Right. So years ago, I spoke at my aunt's funeral. She was almost 100 years old. And I talked to the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, the grandkids, whatever. And I asked everybody, when I was trying to come up with a speech, tell me what you remember about her. Okay. I wanted to put together a bunch of cute stories. All anybody could say was she made great meatballs. She made great meatballs. I said, that's it. The woman lived 100 years on this earth, and the only thing that you can say is she made great meatballs.
Wow.
And that kind of just lit a fire under me that I don't want that to happen someday. Like I want people to have a lot more to say about me someday when I die than she made good meatballs.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's,
so I want it to be like she changed the world.
Right. She did so many great things. She was selfless. She was beautiful. She was kind.
Yeah. And, and my husband said something too. He says, what it doesn't say? When you look on somebody's gravestone, it always says beloved mother, grandmother, whatever. It never says she had a really clean house.
Yeah, it surely doesn't.
Right. But that's like all his, his mom, his grandma, and everybody, that's all they ever cared about, was the house clean. He's like, that doesn't matter. It's your relationships with people that count.
Yep. Absolutely right. So now it's time for you to share an oh hell no moment that has changed your life, changed your perspective on something, or just pissed you off.
Well, the biggest one would be the day that my son went to heaven. I mean, that was a phone call that no parent ever wants to get. Yeah. It's just a phone call that comes at 7:00 in the morning. And they said, it's been 20 minutes. And I said, what do you mean? Like, I thought they meant he was having a seizure for 20 minutes. And I found out later that they were doing CPR on him for 20 minutes and he wasn't waking up, And it changes your perspective because, and I was listening to another, like a podcast or something, and the guy hit the nail on the head where I totally agreed with what he said. He said, He speaks his mind now, and he says what he wants to say, and he really doesn't care what anybody says. He says, and they can come and threaten me, and they can threaten my life. And he said, and they could kill me if they want. I really don't care. He said, because if I die, I'll be with my son that went to heaven 11 years ago. He said, so I'm not afraid of death anymore. He said, so there's nothing you can do to me. Like, to me, it's the worst thing that could possibly happen has already happened. So I've already gotten past that fear.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like when I went to Israel in March, the coronavirus was breaking out and everybody was freaking out. And I went off on this trip with a group of people and we went on a tour. And some guy said to me, he says, I don't understand you. You're posting on Facebook like all these vacation pictures, like nothing's going on. And the whole world is shutting down and freaking out. And you're just posting away like it doesn't matter, like you're just having a good time. And I said, well, yeah, because I'm not afraid, because I'm like, if I die, I die, then I'm like, good, then I get to go be with my son. It's not, I don't have that fear anymore. It's just kind of a different perspective. I'm like, look, the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to me has already happened. So it's only uphill from here.
Right. Oh, I get it. It's sad. It definitely is. but the good thing is that you are still here and you are doing amazing things that, I'm sure he's proud of. So
definitely. I feel like he's up there. He's like, come on, Mom, you got to help my peeps. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Tell everyone how we can connect with you, how we can find out about when the book releases and support everything you got going on.
Okay, so I have a couple of Facebook pages. I'm the Paint Diva if they want to see my before and afters of paint jobs and things like that. If they want to know about the Penguin books, the YouTube channel is called Robbie and Me Autism Reality. They can watch YouTube videos of Robbie, and as things happen with the book, I'll post videos there. And then there's a Facebook page that's the book is called Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures. Mm-hmm. A little play on words there with the spectrum. So the Facebook page is called Robbie's World / Robbie and Me Autism Reality. It's got both names in there. It's got the book and I know it's kind of long, but
no, it's fine.
And Robbie is spelled Robbie.
Okay, so guys, I'll put everything in the show notes so you can click on the links. If you don't catch it, listening to the podcast, it'll definitely be there so you can follow and support and catch up. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so great talking to you and listening to your journey. I love it.
Thanks for having me. It was very fun talking to you.
Absolutely.
Now more than ever, it's critical that customers find accurate information about your business. Local Works by Yahoo Small Business makes it easy to add, edit, and publish business information across 70+ local directories from a single dashboard. Ensure your business is found with Local Works and save 10% today by using code LWPodcast. Visit yahoosmallbusiness.com/local to find out more.
11 bodies, 10 years, and countless theories. I'm talking about the Long Island serial killer case.
It was just how many bodies were being found in one area. I was shocked.
Follow us, Billy Jensen and Alexis Linkletter, on Unraveled, Long Island Serial Killer. And to follow our investigation even further, don't miss our all-new special Unraveled, the Long Island Serial Killer. Streaming now, exclusively on Discovery+.